Now, I remember when I was younger and a lot of the art videos I used to watch liked to hate on Mary Sue's and Gary Stu's, and for a while I kinda used their criticisms as a personal guideline on how to write and build my OCs. But personally, after years of creating OCs and story writing and world building, I've actually come to disagree with that, and now I actually think y'all need to have fun for real. And I'm serious about this, because when I first started making OCs, I was basically overthinking everything. The world itself, the characters, dynamics, power scaling, everything. I was quite literally overthinking even the weather system, when weather was not even part of the story whatsoever. And the thing is with overthinking that you literally, you overthink. But the thing about OCs, story building, character writing, all that, is that it's meant to be fun. You're supposed to have fun, and for a long time now, making OCs was not fun for me. Like, at first, I'd feel giddy and happy when I first find a character concept I liked, but then I got bogged down by all sorts of things, like, oh, but this doesn't make any sense, or, ugh, I need to make this and tie it in with another plot point, or stuff like, does the world building make sense? Is the representation actually good? Are my characters balanced? Is this power system logical? And that kind of pressure ruined things for me for a little while. Understandably so. And the only reason why I actually was able to find the fun in world building and creating OCs again was actually when I watched Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at 17. Now, if you've watched Rise of the TMNT, you know what I'm talking about. For context, I was a fan of the old 2012 TMNT series, the one a lot of the kids in the 2010s ended up watching because we all had Nickelodeon on our TVs and we would essentially watch whatever was on there that was showing. But I was a dedicated fan. I was memorizing the times of day that the show was playing, and for me, it was on weekends at 12-something p.m. But years later, when I realized the old show had ended and there was a new reboot, I don't think I actually gave it much thought. I don't really remember how exactly I reacted when I first saw the art style and the graphics for the Rise of the TMNT show, but at some point after graduating high school, I ended up giving in and deciding to watch it. But before that, I had seen a couple of clips and found the dialogue really punchy and fun, but I knew I couldn't let myself watch it while I was still in high school. Some part of me knew. She knew. Deep down, she would not be able to let go of that show once she got into it. And God knows she was right. I was a very, very quickly obsessed. I don't want to think about the kind of monster I was when younger me heard even the slightest mention of TMNT Raf. But why am I telling you this grandmother story essentially? It's because watching TMNT taught me one very important thing. That you do not have to care. You can just have fun. You do not have to care if your world building makes a lick of sense. You do not have to explain every single thing if it isn't doing anything for your story. You do not have to care if your character's dialogue makes zero sense outside of being funny or witty. You do not have to care whether your character is stupidly overpowered even, because Mikey, of all people, was throwing ships and buildings. Do you really think you have to play by the rules of limitations of others? No, the fuck you don't. Yes, TMNT has great character writing, really interesting world building, and amazing fight sequences that would make literally any isekai anime drool. But the thing is, they did all that while pushing the boundaries of what a normal TMNT story should look like, and got a committed, amazing fanbase because of it. That still tags Save Rise of the TMNT to this day, mind you. And that ended up freeing me. Seeing a TMNT stories where the turtles have mystic powers, hidden cities, and their villains are new, fresh, and their old classic villains genuine threats to everything the turtles care for is so different. If you told younger me that this was the kind of new gen TMNT show that she would be watching, she would think it was absolute blasphemy. And even though the show did meet with harsh criticism when it first came out, it still had a lot of heart, soul, and comedy put into its dialogue, character writing, and art style. And watching that show showed me that I don't actually have to police myself when it comes to writing the things I like, and that honestly freed me. And I think it should free more of y'all too. But going back to OCs. OCs are meant to be fun. You're supposed to like them. Love them even, but you can't exactly do that if all you're doing is giving yourself a heavy weight on your shoulders when you're making them. It just doesn't work like that. If you already know your story has a more comedic or slice of life tone, or you don't want certain things to be taken too seriously, then don't take it too seriously. If your story is darker and has more mature themes, what are you doing? Use that time to delve into the dark parts of your story, the themes, the aftermaths, and the interesting and fun things that come out of putting your OCs through some messed up shit. You don't have to obsess over every single little detail of your world building or the slightest bit of history or lore if it doesn't even impact the stories or the characters whatsoever. You can, of course, if that's fun to you and you like the little details. That's amazing, that's great. But it's all about priorities. And if it's giving you more headache and taking away the fun of actually creating your OCs and your worlds, you can always put it aside and work on something that can actually benefit your story even more. Like, I don't know, writing it, especially if it's more fun to do so. But because of stories like Roti and Minty, I can actually now make OCs that I'm actually passionate about, ones that make me excited and happy to tell the stories of if anybody asks. Like, I have my 3 unwanted consort OCs. My main female character doesn't even have an actual name because I don't want to. The story and the characters only ever refers to her as Empress or Princess because I'm already aware that the world is a comedic, nonsensical, and magical world that doesn't always have to make sense. And if her lack of name can be something like a gag used for the story, I may as well go for it. Sure, it'd be nice to have a proper name for her, but I can't even come up with one after 3 years of making her, so I don't think I'm going to anytime soon. Like, if my story has the historical equivalent of wholesome father-daughter manhwas and a stupid marriage contest on the first episode, I have better things to be worried about than how I'm gonna make my political systems realistic and make it comparable to a real-life scenario. You can't do that, and that's the freaking point. And I don't think I would have been able to create that kind of story and that kind of world that I love if I was so busy being bogged down by things that don't actually impact the story or have any cultural or historical relevance. If anything, it led me to take more interesting and unique paths that diverge off the tropes you usually see in this genre. Like in Greek mythology-inspired stories, it usually revolves or includes their gods and deities. But because the Empress is secretly half Minotaur, I get to turn things in a way where the gods aren't the focus. And they're basically just stories told by humans to explain people's misunderstandings of the world. And because of this, the mythical creatures that are actually affected by these tales are more important to the story and the world building. But if I were so busy looking up all the stories of the gods in their mythos, I would be bogging myself down with information that won't actually help in my writing process, and distract myself from the world building that's actually needed to build my story, aka focusing on the mythological creatures and the 3 consorts themselves that are very unwanted. I'm not saying that research isn't important. No, it's still very important. You still gotta do it. If I didn't have research, I wouldn't have half the OCs that I've made. I wouldn't have known about how to avoid writing racial stereotypes, how to write certain types of mental illnesses, or how to write trauma. But when it comes to research, I think going into it with a clearer idea of what you want out of your story actually helps to keep things fun and also potentially curb the burnout or frustration of writing and developing these stories. It's more about having a goal of what you want to find out, what this means to the story, and how you're going to use the information to benefit your OCs and their stories. Because yeah, you can go in kind of blind with no idea what you want, that's fine. But understanding the direction and the themes you want for your certain OC's universe normally puts you at a better starting point than not understanding what you want at all. Your research is supposed to be something that helps you or guides you. Like, you wouldn't research the same way you would for a gritty sci-fi story and a lighthearted romance. A universe with teleportation and nanotech weapons doesn't have the same rules as a universe with a gritty detective and heavy technical or steampunk weaponry. And if you want to have fun making your OCs and hold them for a long time, that's the kind of things you might want to consider, and that's the kind of fun you want to give yourself so you can keep on drawing and being motivated to work on them. Because the last thing I want is for a story to be scrapped simply because it's not serious enough, or it's too self-indulgent and embarrassing, or it doesn't make sense and it's probably trash. Like, yeah, that can be a possibility, but that's not an excuse to give up on something that you love and brings you joy, man. You cannot let you wanting quality become the very reason you lose motivation to create in the first place. And I think that's something more people really need to hear. Good storytelling doesn't need you to follow every single rule, and when you stop policing yourself, you're actually letting yourself have fun. That's why I can make stuff like my 3 unwanted consorts and actually enjoy writing it. You can always come back to it and refine it with said rules at the end of the day. But you have to actually enjoy making something that can be refined to begin with. You don't have to make them perfectly balanced, perfectly realistic, amazingly written, or a perfect representation of every marginalized group they're inspired by before you're actually allowed to have fun with them. Do your research if needed, but just have fun with them. And if you eventually realize something isn't working, you can change it. That's the part of creating. But you can't do that if there hasn't been anything created that's worthy of changing. And that is a lot harder to keep doing if you don't even like creating anymore. But at the end of the day, these are your OCs. They only exist because you made them. And you're allowed to have fun with that. And I know some of the things I've said in this video might get misconstrued as me saying you shouldn't take writing seriously, or that every single second of creating an OC has to be sunshine and rainbows. No, I'm not saying that. I'm actually just saying that some of the rules you're taught about art and storytelling are a lot more breakable than you might think. And if making your self-indulgent, OP, multi-species Mary Sue makes you happier than writing or drawing anything else, then fucking do that. If you love that character, if you love that world, if you're excited to keep creating for it, it doesn't matter if it has flaws or doesn't feel good enough to you. It's still something worth putting your love and energy into because it's for yourself. Because you don't have to make your art for everyone else to enjoy it before you're allowed to enjoy it yourself or think that it's good by your own standards. But that's essentially all I wanted to say for this video regarding fun with OCs and world building. I'm mostly making this video as like a message to my younger self because I had a lot of ideas back in the day that I would burn simply because they felt stupid, and I regret it looking back on it now. So in a way, this is like a message to my younger self that you don't have to worry too much about your OCs not fitting into some kind of mold that you think is so important. That storytelling, it doesn't have to be all that serious. It can be, yeah, but it doesn't have to come at the expense of your enjoyment and your passion for the story. And I wanted to say that, like, whatever limits you set upon yourself, you don't necessarily have to always conform to that, especially if it's set by others, and especially if it doesn't even benefit your story to begin with. But anyways, rant aside, I actually just want more people to have fun and be more self-indulgent. Even if you don't actually publish or make the story or make the webtoon or the animatic or whatever, it's still something you love, and that's still something so worthy, and that's still something so important regardless. And even if you do post it, even if you do make all that stuff, you never know how many lives you would change by doing so, and all it takes is just not giving up on the things you love. But anyways, if you liked what I had to say and you'd like to see me talk more about topics like these, or if you'd like to see me cover on anything, feel free to drop a like and subscribe to see more of what I have in store. This video is actually a bit more vulnerable than I actually anticipated because it's something I actually have a very strong opinion on, but let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a nice day. Bye bye!